Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this bulle verte about insects. So my name is Capucine Grancière. I'm a sustainable technology analyst at BP France. And today the session will be held in English because we have two guests here from abroad, Chris and Vidar. Welcome. So we are constantly looking for more sustainable sources of proteins like microalgae or other kind of microorganisms, as well as insects. And before we jump into our subject, I have a question for you. I'm really curious to know about how many of you would be willing to eat insects. Please raise your hand either here or in the chat. Okay, not that bad. So for those who didn't raise their hand, don't worry, because it's not tomorrow the day you will be eating insects, because the first growing industry is the feed industry. And this is why we welcome here our two guests, so Chris from Agronutris and Vidar from BioMar, who are two major players in the feed industry and especially made from insects. So would you like to introduce yourself and your company, Chris?
Yeah, hi everyone. Chris HAACKE from Agronutris. So I'm the responsible for business development at Agronutris. I have a long history within the aquaculture industry, but more recently, over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, very much novel ingredients, bringing from novel ingredients from a starting niche standpoint up to mainstream, large-scale ingredients within the aquaculture industry and other feed industries. Agronutris is a startup. We've been around for some time now. We've been around for 11 years, investing a lot in R&D and science. And we're in the process of industrializing our insect solution. So we raised 100 million euros last year. We started building our factory last year, and it's coming online at the end of this year, with our first deliveries to customers coming in the middle of next year. So that's us. So over to you, Birma.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vidar GUNDERSEN. I'm the reason this is being held in English. I'm sorry about that. I don't speak French yet. Yeah, I'm a global sustainability director at BioMar. I've been with that company for 20 years. I had the pleasure of working with Chris here before, introducing another ingredient, and we're trying to replicate this now. Looking very forward to do that, and it's going well so far, and it will be a success again, I'm sure. Yeah, BioMar, a global feed supplier, factories all over the world. Produce almost 2 million tons of feed and supply close to 50 species in about 100 different countries. So yeah, that's very short about us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much to you. So now let's jump into our first question for you, Vidar. So as a part of a feed manufacturer company, what is your vision of the insects protein sector in the world, because you are a global company, and how could it look like in the future?
Yeah, okay. Maybe we can also get up a slide here that will help bring things into context, just to help. This is from a Norwegian salmon farming perspective, how the feed has developed from 1990 till now. As you can see, it's gone from being very marine, fish meal and fish oil, but there's no more of those ingredients, so it had to be replaced by something as the industry was growing. So more and more vegetable ingredients have come in, based mostly soy. Okay? One of the effects of that and consequences is that the carbon footprint has increased.
So the red line is the carbon footprint of these
the feed.
Okay.
Yeah. And we are here now at the top level. We need to bring this down. So these are the reasons why all the ingredients we look into now also need to perform on sustainability. So it's not just the traditional cost, performance, and those things. It also needs to perform on carbon footprint, land use, it's circular, and so on. Okay, and this is also where the insects are so interesting. It didn't used to be 5-6 years ago what I call the insect meal 1.0. We are now into the 2.0. Now it's very, very interesting because they have been addressing some of the challenges and some of the obstacles that we also told the players back then. Now it's really, really looking promising. And we foresee a big use of insects here. This is the processed animal proteins, the category where insects will fall in under.
So these pink parts only represents insects?
Yes, this is how we see it. Insect as it's growing, and Chris will come back more into that, the build-up, the scale-up of the industry. It is a raw material that is very, very interesting. It's something I would place in between fish meal, which is the greatest raw material you can have for a species like salmon, and soy protein. So the insect is in between there. So we really hope that we can do this together, and I believe we will.
Okay, thank you very much. I will ask the same question to you as a supplier.
Yeah. Okay. So looking at the industry first in France and the EU, it's very much in the process of scaling up at the moment. There's limited production today from a limited number of producers. But there's a whole wave of follow-up producers coming through. There's different models. There's black soldier fly producers like ourselves. There's the mealworm producers coming through as well. We have centralized models, decentralized models. So the industry's coming up, and there's different models following. And there has been a significant investment in France, and this is continuing to grow, and it's creating an ecosystem of insect producers in France, and what I'd call a center of excellence. We're raising the skill levels and the knowledge levels within France. So looking beyond France, in terms of the insect industry, there are again a lot of producers coming through, a lot of investment, and we are seeing a significant number of companies growing, whether it's in South America, North America, the rest of Europe and Asia as well, and Africa. Today, globally, we're probably producing about 10,000 tons, not Agronutris, the industry globally. And and this is primarily going to premium positions within feed industries, whether it's aquaculture or into the pet food industry. But tomorrow, this will grow significantly, and it's going to start hitting the kind of scale that Vidar's talking about. We estimate, by the end of last year, there was probably about 1 billion euros invested in insects. There's several hundred million more that have been announced recently. So this will lead to this scaling up process. And the future is going to see an industry that's delivering an impactful scale in a sustainable way. I think we're going to see some regulatory changes in the future, which will also allow us to become really access to post-consumer waste, access to catering waste that will really allow us to repurpose nutrients and deliver even more on some of the sustainability benefits coming from. And that's how I see the industry evolving in the future.
That's a good vision. Thank you. And by listening to you, I was feeling that there are still some barriers to overcome before this kind of protein is globally used or globally accepted by feed manufacturers. Talking about the price, for example. Vidar, are there other requirements that you're expecting as a manufacturer?
Yeah. Could you also please pull up the other slide here? That will help explain that. This is a very brief one, and here we have identified some ingredients, interesting ingredients for the aquaculture industry going forward. Not all novel marine ingredients, novel plant-based raw materials. GMOs will fall under that one. Insects, blue mussels, microbial ingredients, single-cell proteins, fermented raw materials like that. Phototrophic microalgae and land animal proteins, byproducts and those things. Okay, they are not new, but there are things that might come in. But they are market acceptance, consumer acceptance, and so on also here.
So the problem with the land animal products is that they are not accepted by the market. Is it what you're saying?
Yeah, they were used actually before. And then if any of you remember the mad cow disease, it's, basically that was the reason why it was taken out. So we have those kind of things that can limit the use of some of the raw materials, okay? But those interesting ones are insects and, and single cell proteins. I think those are the ones closest to the finish line. And first of them, I think it will be the insects, because those things that can be addressed on a sustainability, from a sustainability point of view, very easy. It's the circularity story. As Chris talked about, repurposing nutrients, take waste, bring them into new, highly valuable nutrients again. It's fantastic. I raise my hand about eating insects, but I would prefer to get them indirectly through a salmon or something like that. Things you need to tick off here is, of course, sustainability. This is the picture today, how we see it. So this will evolve, okay? You will have very good best practice players here, and you can have someone performing poorly, okay? So this is just an average as we see it. Costs, of course, an issue. Scaling will happen on that one. Volume 2. How competitive they are. Sustainability as a driver, of course, market acceptance. Those are all good in these two areas. But I really believe that insects will be the one coming in firstly. Okay. Not the only solution for
we'll
the
need
future
a mix.
ingredients, but one of the solutions.
Okay, one of these solutions. Yeah. And so, following what Vidar just said, what is the insects protein supplier global strategy to reach all these requirements, like reducing the cost, make the insects even more sustainable? What are these?
Not much of a challenge, is it? No, it's, no. I think insects are currently a novel ingredient, obviously, and they face the same challenges that we see with a lot of other novel ingredients. So we have to work in partnership with the industry, with customers, potential customers, and partnerships like we have with BioMar, and taking case in point each of these elements. If we think about the nutrition to start with, we need to work closely. Vidar's talked about having the fitting somewhere between fish meal and soy protein concentrate. So we work with our partners to optimize the diets, to see how they fit well. What's the best position for these insects within the diet? So that's a good start. And it's a continuous, innovative process, and we will continue that ongoing. Sustainability. This is obviously a key element as well. And insects represent a great opportunity for the feed industry to decarbonize. But we need to produce sustainably, so we can do the choices of our substrates, how we feed our insects, the energy choices we make to run our factories. All of these things will contribute to achieving these sustainability goals. But we also need to be measuring these. So having an LCA where we can actually give numbers, solid numbers to our customers, so
Chris,
that they can prove.
Could you explain what LCAs are?
Sorry, yeah, that's typical three-letter acronym. Life cycle assessment is how we measure the sustainability of our products.
Yeah.
Inputs, the economic value, how much carbon dioxide we emit to produce our products, basically.
So LCAs are ACV, so analyse de cycle de vie in French.
Analyse de cycle de vie, exactement. So by actually doing all of these elements, we can build ourselves towards and become an important strategic partner for the customers, for the feed industry, and carry through in that manner. So that's one of the strategies for the global development for the industry. for us to really make an interest, we have to be able to deliver at scale and be affordable. So at the moment, the insect industry is still very young. We're still at a premium price level when you compare to traditional proteins. So we work through the whole value chain, and the industry to work through the whole value chain. We work with feed mills, farmers, retailers, where we can create premium price positions for the products using our insects, whether this is on sustainability or nutrition. And then as the volumes build, and we build with experience and we build with efficiency, this allows us then to build our volumes, and then this will allow our industry to take in place a more mainstream ingredient and deliver that impact at scale, as we've discussed. This will allow the evolution from niche to mainstream and allow us to become a serious partner for companies like BioMar. There are existing examples of this route, microalgae being one, which is an area we've worked with before. Microalgae is no longer niche. It's now present in more than 50% of salmon diets in Norway. And this is hopefully a route we can take moving forward.
Thank you. Vidar, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to add one of the basic quality criteria first, of course, that need to be ticked off is that, you know, you have enough protein, you have the right amino acid, all those kind of things needs to be in place. I just forgot to mention that, but that is kind of obvious, yeah.
And you didn't really talked about regulations. How is the regulation doing now about feed in the first place? I don't know, Vidar or Chris. How does it stand?
What in terms of regulations for the insects?
For feeding animals with insects.
So
yes.
At the moment, the regulations allow for insects, insect meal and insect oil to be used in feeds for aquaculture, for pet foods, for pork and for swine. The insects that are used are allowed to use agricultural byproducts, and we're allowed to use pre-consumer waste. So these are vegetable waste streams that maybe that are still sort of before they've reached the consumers. So from manufacturing or whatever. What we're hoping in time is that the European food safety authorities will allow post-consumer waste, restaurant waste. So this will allow us to access a vast swathe of currently unutilized waste streams, which will make us even more sustainable, even more cost efficient, and will really benefit from that circular economy, again, making salmon farmers, shrimp farmers, whoever, way more, offer them far more sustainable options. But that regulatory process has to follow through.
Okay, so I understand that the regulation is okay with insect suppliers to feed the fishes.
Yep.
But the problem here stands on the insects feed side. So you need the regulation needs to approve other types of waste.
Correct.
To be given to these insects. Okay, good. Thank you very much. And I also have a question regarding these co-products of insects. So I've heard that we are not only using proteins from them, but there are also co-products for other applications. What are they?
So two other co-products. We have an oil. So we have a nice saturated fatty acid produced from the insects as well. The oil will enter some similar markets to the frasse. It works very nicely in salmon diets. There are potentially some very nice properties going into other agricultural uses as well. But it's a very sustainable oil. It's typically analogous to palm oil. So where we see palm oil being used in certain personal care industries, there's a great opportunity for us to help them become more sustainable as well. And using a local European-produced saturated fatty acid, rather than bringing something in from the tropics.
Okay.
From the other co-product being frasse, so insects are not only good for feeding people and animals, they're also good for feeding the soil. The frasse is a great opportunity for us to put nutrients back into the soil. If we can use locally produced fertilizer, it's a great fertilizer, organic fertilizer, this will help, especially as we grow in scale and volume. And by volume, it's by far our largest output. It will allow us to use less chemical fertilizers within Europe, within the locality of the factories, which has a much lower carbon footprint. And also, into the context of today's geopolitical situation, it also means that our supply chains are much shorter, and we don't need to be relying on fertilizers being brought in from outside of France or Europe.
So many other applications. So to show to you that insects is a really sustainable solution for the future. And my last question is, and probably one you're willing to know the answer. When are we as consumers going to eat insects? Is it possible? Do you think we will? And I will also ask this question to Vidar, maybe as a consumer. What do you think?
About when we can eat insects? Well, yeah, I don't know. As soon as they are available and open the legislation there. But I think that we will be able to eat insects, not necessarily directly, but indirectly, for example, through farmed fish or salmon, very soon. Very soon.
Okay.
It's already been trialed. It's good, but soon, where insects actually contributes for a quite substantial part of the feed, and I think that will be very soon. I believe the direct insect kind of thing to Chris. When do you think that will happen?
So, a little bit of history about Agronutris. I've already mentioned we've been around for 11 years. It actually started as Micronutris, developing and doing R&D in insects for human consumption. And people are eating insects today. We produce insects, or insects have been produced for aperitif. They tend to be used by individuals for an experience. They don't always come back for more, but people want to try new things. I think IPIF, which is the international protein from insects, basically the industry body, claim that roughly 9 million people have tried using insects already, and they believe by 2030 that 300 million people will be consuming insects, or will have tried insects at least. And rather than actually trying insects whole or as an experience, for it to develop into a sort of more wide-scale industry, it'll go more into nutrition. We will see insect powders going into protein drinks, for example, sports drinks. There's opportunities for it to help with healthcare. Sarcopenia, I think it's called. It's a disease suffered by older people, a lack of protein in their diets, and there's research ongoing to see how insects might help these elements there. So we may not see insects that we're eating directly, but there's definitely an opportunity for insects to contribute to our diets in a very positive way where we are eating them directly. One other example, obviously veganism is a big thing. Currently, certainly in the UK, I believe it's growing in France as well, but so is flexitarianism. So people want to make choices to have a lower impact within their diet. So if there's products where we have insects with a low carbon impact, this is a way for flexitarian people within a flexitarian diet to really be able to have an impact, or to make a positive choice as well. So there.
Well, a nice future for insects then. So I understand that you won't directly eat the whole insects. You won't see them on your shelves, but you will see them as, you won't see them. They will be put on your products as an ingredient, and so the product will be more nutritious with more proteins, and if I understood well. Yeah? Okay. There was actually my last question. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. Yes, we have a mic. And also in the chat, if you are online and you want to react. Yes.
Hello, my question is, how much carbon do you save feeding salmon with insects, or to produce meat? So
we've done an interim LCA or ACV. So with our factory being produced coming online at the end of this year, we've had to make certain assumptions based on the databases. So assuming those assumptions are all correct, we should have our carbon impact is roughly half that of an average fish meal, and roughly a third of that of soy protein concentrate. So it'll have a significant, whatever percentage we replace either of those two ingredients, we will have a significant benefit. The same with the oil. The oil is significantly lower than other equivalent oils as well.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, that's also why we think that insects done right will be an important ingredient in the help of driving down the total carbon footprint of the feed and salmon as well. Since 80% of a produced salmon, of one salmon, about 80% of the environmental impact comes from the feed and its raw materials. So it really matters.
Any other question? Yes?
Thank you for this interesting discussion. I had one question. I'm curious for the feed industry. Is it more efficient to mix insects and get the proteins, or do you focus on one certain type of insects?
In our case in particular, and just thinking more broadly, simply for the sake of efficiency, knowledge, scale, we'll focus on one insect. I believe different insects will be able to be successful into different industries, delivering different things. But from our perspective, the black soldier fly, the way it can upcycle nutrients, the way it can use different types of substrates, is perfect for the feed industry, especially with the level of protein it's got, and the fatty acid profile. It's perfect for that. And it means we can specialize and really build those economies of scale and the efficiency and the cost basis that goes behind that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have a question online. So what type of insects are usually used for feeding? What type of insects?
So what insects are we using?
Yes.
What kinds are usually used?
Black soldier fly, Hermesia eluscens, or mouche solde noire.
Okay, so that's the best.
It's the best because it's
because you're
the one
using
we've chosen.
it, obviously.
So obviously, there are other insects are available, but yeah, that's from our perspective, it's the one that fulfills the role the best.
All right. Any other questions here? No. No other online? No. Okay, well, thank you very much. Do you have we have 2 minutes left. Do you have final words to say?
It's hot here.
It's hot here.
So just one final comment from me. Something I forgot, just some figures I forgot to mention earlier. I did say we're about 10,000 tons a year at the moment. The industry, depending on who you listen to, based on the investment the industry's had and expected investment coming up, we are expected to grow, depending on who you listen to, anywhere from 500,000 tons to 5 million tons of insect meal being produced by 2030. So it's a huge engine of investment. There's a lot of energy behind it, and it will be one of the key drivers of growth for the feed industry into animals and for us to eat as people as well. But thank you very much for having us here as well.
It was a pleasure. Yes?
Yeah, thank you for having us. I would just add to that, being a customer of the product that Chris is going to produce, we really, really like that it's being invested so much in insects here in France. It's really needed, and I think France will also be a leader in this kind of production. And just to put it like that, we don't see, done right, we don't see a limit in how much we can use of that. So just come on, produce more.
So these will be your last words, okay. Well, thank you very much. 30 seconds left. So just on time. Thank you very much to the two of you and also to you guys. And I hope you enjoy this debate. And please don't hesitate to have a talk with Vidar and Chris right now if you want. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.